Stuka Joe here. Today's sample example comes from Phantom Fury, a solitaire game where the player controls the 3rd Battalion of the 1st U.S. Marines as they battle insurgent forces in the Jolan district of Fallujah in Iraq on the morning of November 9th, 2004. We'll be going through the game turn example found at page 14 of the game's rulebook, and a link to the rulebook is included in the description below. It's the start of turn 3, and we control the first block of houses, that is, zones 2, 3, and 4, and we will use these zones as our starting point to move towards the mosque. The 3 opposite zones, that is 14, 15, and 16, were activated beforehand. Marine Squad 1, with its combined anti-armor team, has been deployed on the rooftops of Zone 3 in a central position to be able to fire at these 3 enemy zones. We begin with the support phase, and we call for a specific reconnaissance mission. We pick the Dragon Eye Unmanned Vehicle Report. It has a success die range from 0 to 8. We roll 1d10, the result is a 2, and we successfully obtain this reconnaissance mission, which we apply on 2 adjacent zones, 15 and 16. And because these zones are already activated and not fortified, we can activate the suspect markers that are in them. We roll for each suspect marker to see if we uncover a decoy, a guerrilla, or a martyrs unit. And the drone's cameras only uncover 2 small groups of fighters in the houses, and we choose not to request any further support for now. Next is the reinforcements phase, and we place Marine Squad 12 in Zone 3 to reinforce our axis of advance. We also bring in the M1A1 Abrams support counter to cover our squads that are about to advance against the enemy across the street. On to the fire combat phase. Squad 1 in Zone 3 uses its CAAT support to fire on the guerrilla unit in Zone 15. The CAAT adds 2 to the Marines' combat factor. The die roll is a 5 plus 1 for the target in a location that is not a rooftop for a modified roll of 6, which is less than the Marines' combat factor of 8. So the guerrilla unit is eliminated. Next, Marine Squad 4 in Zone 4 with a combat factor of 6 fires on the guerrilla unit in Zone 16. The roll is a 3 plus 1 for the target being in a location that is not a rooftop for a modified roll of 4, and this guerrilla unit is also eliminated. Finally, Marine Squad 8 in Zone 2, with a combat factor of 5, fires at the suspect marker in location A, which is a rooftop space in Zone 14. The roll is a 0 plus 1 for firing at a suspect marker for a result of 1. And because the target is a suspect marker, the result activates it. But because the die roll was a natural 0, the Marine unit now suffers a sniper attack. The sniper attack is resolved by rolling a die. The roll is a 2, and because the result is equal or less than the number of enemy counters in adjacent and neighboring areas, in this case 3 for the guerrilla unit in Zone 13, and 2 suspect markers in Zone 14, the Marine Squad is now pinned, and we rotate the counters facing accordingly. Now we roll for the suspect unit's activation. The roll is a 3. It is a dummy, so we remove the marker and place it back into its cup. We now go to the movement phase, which begins with the arrival at the scene of the M1A1 Abrams. We flip the counter to roll on the table that appears on its back side to determine the unit's movement allowance for the turn. The roll is a 5, and the Abrams has a movement allowance of 3. With 3 movement points, the Abrams moves to the position shown here, where it can cover the advance of Marine Squad 12, and it allows it to cross the street without hindrance. The squad enters location P of Zone 14, where it now chances defensive fire by a suspect marker in the zone. A die is rolled, and the roll is a 1, which is not greater than the Marine Squad's combat factor, so the suspect marker does not activate and there is no effect. Now we move to the assault phase with the actions of Marine Squad 12, which declares an assault against the suspect marker in location B of Zone 14. The assault declaration immediately activates the suspect marker. First, we roll to see what insurgent unit takes the suspect marker's place. The roll is an 8, so an insurgent unit is drawn and placed on its guerrilla side. It is a guerrilla with a combat factor of 3. Now each unit involved in the assault rolls a die, and the results are applied simultaneously. The Marine Squad rolls a 4, plus 1 for the activation of a suspect marker, for a result of 5, which is equal to the Marine's combat factor. This eliminates the guerrillas. The guerrillas roll a 0, which is less than the guerrilla's combat factor of 3, and this causes a step loss on the Marine's unit, which is flipped to its reduced side. Because the guerrillas rolled a natural 0, a die roll is now made on the events table for insurgents facing Marine squads. The roll is a 6, drugged fighters. If the insurgents suffered a step loss, as they did, the unit is replaced by a unit of the same type with a combat factor which is 1 less than the removed unit's combat factor. As a result of the event, the guerrilla's unit is substituted by another guerrilla with a combat factor of 2. The insurgent unit now carries out retreat movement and moves to Zone 24 into Location 1. The Marine Squad now enters Location B, which just had been vacated. The turn ends with the reorganization phase, and the player takes control of Zone 14. Note that Zones 15 and 16 are clear of insurgent units, but not yet under U.S. control. Gaining control of a zone causes the placement of new suspect markers in neighboring zones 23, 24, and 25. Marine Squad 8 now needs to roll to see if it becomes unpinned, and that's because it is adjacent to a guerrilla unit in Zone 13. A die is rolled and the result is a 4, which is equal or less than the Marine's combat factor. The Marine unit passes the check and the squad is now unpinned and its counter is reoriented to normal facing. And that's our sample example for Phantom Fury.